Greetings and welcome back to Enigmatic. Good morning. This is actually take two. This damn Mike and I are not getting along right now. So we're going to see how this goes the second time around. I ended up recording a 16-minute video talking about dysthymia and my experience with it. And then when I went to listen to it, it was super quiet. And this was all after me pulling out the instruction manual for this new mic setup and seeing what's going on and having set it up the way that I wanted to, only to have it to not record that well. Now, I think that part of the issue is that I need a new phone. The USB-C charger is a little bit finicky, and I think that the adapter that goes into it that ties into the mic, because it's wireless, I think that it resets itself every time it gets unplugged. So I set it up on my bed, and then I placed the phone on the floor, and I think that that kind of jostled it and made it so that it wasn't as clear as it was now. But hopefully this one will be a little bit better. Since I was a little bit unsuccessful with that first video, I decided to meditate and smoke a little bit of changa, which is DMT and harmalas. It's like a smokable ayahuasca. I don't encourage anybody or recommend that anybody does what I do with regards to psychedelics. Do your research first. Just because you hear, one person or several people that seem like they know what they're talking about or that seem to be successful doing something doesn't mean that it's right for everybody. And medical science is one of the least consistent of the sciences, in that there is a great deal of variability in between people. So how something affects one person might not really affect other people in the same way. Anyway, what I really wanted to talk about today was some poignant points that I listened to from a video from I guess technically he's a YouTuber, but he's a doctor, known as Healthy Gamer GG. That's the name of the channel. I'll link the video below. I find his work to be very incisive and thorough, and thoughtful, and just very on point, and so it's helped me out a lot. The video that I listened to this week, and I've actually listened to it a few times because it hit me kind of hard, but I think that this hard hit, while it's a little bit shattering, will be something that can help me to move forward in a happier way, and to be more productive and get more of what I would like to get out of life. And apologies, I am in a certain kind of mood today where I just don't care, and I'm going to hit my vape while I make this video. So anyway, I know it's not very YouTuber professional, but I just don't care. So there was a few different points that he made. Again, the topic was dysthymia, which, for those who don't know, that is persistent depressive disorder. And it's a bit of a weird phenomenon. I deal with it in a very intense way where it's very obvious, but for a lot of people it can be a bit more subtle. But it's this, you're literally always dealing with depression in one format or another. And one of the things that he highlights is this, what he termed as an intrapsychic inability to derive pleasure from one's own actions. And when he made that comment, he was actually reading a paper about dysthymia that was done decades ago, but he found it appropriate to today still, in the assertions and observations that it made. But I think this is something, just to touch on this first part, this is something that resonates deeply with me. I have a hard time feeling okay about the decisions that I make from big to small. And I think that it's one of the reasons why I feel that I don't really get much done, and I don't get as much done as I would like. And, to some degree, everybody deals with that, but the depressive deals with that to a exacerbated extent. there are things that I could fully well do and that aren't super hard, but in the moment that I need to do it, there is this action paralysis or paralysis of initiation where things that shouldn't be fucking hard are just arduous as shit. Sometimes it's paperwork, sometimes it's simple things like cleaning the house. It just seems a lot more taxing than it is. And it's easier to do things when you are satisfied with what you are doing. So if you are able to derive a sense of satisfaction from your actions, then it is easier to do them. But otherwise, you're just using willpower in order to get them done, because there's nothing that is stoking the fire within you that will help propel you to keep going. And this is something that is very endemic to my experience in the day-to-day, because I do deal with dysthymia, but then I also have major depressive disorder as well. So there's times where I have to deal with both at the same time, and those times are a bit more debilitating than others. And it's difficult also because I feel that most people don't really understand that. They don't understand what can go on inside someone's mind can actually cause not only things like physical ailments, but make doing physical things extremely difficult. And it's one of the reasons why, for a lot of things, to me, it all starts in the mind. I plan to do a video here soon on how fitness is mainly mental, in my perspective. So I'll try to get to that one soon. But anyway, more with dysthymia. Another thing that they highlighted that came from this paper was that the dysthymic is conditioned to fear their own activities. And this definitely links in a great deal with satisfaction of, derived satisfaction of one's activities or from one's activities. But I have a lot of anxiety about like doing this or that, and about whether or not decisions were right or not. And one of the sources that this comes from, according to Dr. K, as well as the paper that he was reading from as he was exploring this topic, is what he calls a dominant other. And a dominant other, one, it can take many different forms, and then two, the dysthymic can find a different dominant other all the time. So, for example, somebody could have a dominant other that is a parent, and then as they enter adulthood and they are dealing with depression and wanting their depression to be better or to quote unquote go away, they go and see a therapist. And because they're seeing the therapist, they expect subconsciously that the therapist will help them to fix their problem, even though fixing of the problem is going to be derived from within. And so the expectations that they have for themselves become derived from that dominant other rather than derived from themselves, based on what the dominant other helps them find in this context. So the therapist. And when the therapist is helping them find that, they really shouldn't be a dominant other, but to the dysthymic, they are a dominant other. And so one of the things that he also talks about in the video is how does the dysthymic become that way? And he says that during childhood, they are deprived from a inner sense of satisfaction with themselves based on the necessities of the dominant other in their life. So, for example, some of the examples that he gives is, a kid gets a 95% on a test, which is still an A. It's a nice middle of the road A. But certain types of overbearing parents would be like, well, that's not 100%. And that can influence other things that can end up causing a sense of guilt when we want to do things that are good for us and indulge ourselves a little bit. So to keep going with that example, and I'm stealing this directly from Dr. K, but say you get a 95 on a test and you then want to play video games, but the parent's like, well, you didn't get 100, shouldn't you be studying more? And so you are deprived from being okay with the choices you make for your own actions. And so another thing that he brings up, and this also aligns for me as well, because I'm a very pensive and rigid person, no matter how much I try to loosen up. But he says that for the dysthymic, a lot of things are very frivolous. It's really hard for me to have fun. And I do find fun in a lot of instances frivolous. And I think that some of that has to do also with my upbringing. Um, and I do feel that I was stifled quite a bit. I mean, I had to write the sentence, "I will practice not talking," thousands of times before like the age of 10. And so that's, that's something that's kind of funny to bring up right now, because I'm doing a YouTube video and it's predicated on me talking. And so like there's a discomfort for me talking that I always deal with, even in doing this. And so what we can highlight here is how much of this happens from the subconscious level, and how, time with ourselves is really, really important, because it's only through time with ourselves, without a whole lot of external excitation, that we are able to see what our subconscious is doing and augment it from there. So the reason I'm talking about this is because, excuse me, that video hit like very, very hard. When I am alone, and I spend a lot of time alone, I actually prefer to be by myself a lot of times. And I might prefer to be by myself because of some of the things that we're talking about, such as, not being able to derive satisfaction from my own actions. And so like one of my own actions, for example, hanging out with friends, it's my action to go and hang out with a friend. But there's just like something that is missing, and I'm not getting as much out of it as I would like. And I feel that I have to walk on eggshells or exercise a certain degree of patience that I might not always have, and also tailor my speech for each and every individual, because we all receive information differently. And so I feel like there's just all these hoops that I have to go through, where it's hard for me to relax in a social situation more often than not. There's a handful of people that I can be in whatever mood I'm in, and they're cool with it. And I really appreciate them. They know who they are. They'll probably listen to this video, so I hope that they get a laugh out of it. Anyway, but yes, I spend a whole lot of time by myself, and I think part of it is because I have these hang-ups that Dr. K has highlighted. While I don't consider myself to be a people pleaser, and I say that because I don't go out of my way to kiss ass or to like give compliments or anything like that, but I do care very, very deeply about the ways in which I may impact, influence, or affect the way others feel. And, that comes also with having been around what is called a dominant other, where it seems that their peace of mind or their happiness is predicated on what you do. And so what you end up learning at a young age is that to find happiness and to find validation, it's going to be sought out externally, and it's going to be discovered externally instead of internally. And I think it's like one of the reasons why I have a hard time like being comfortable with the decisions that I make in a lot of ways, because growing up I had to ask for everything, and then when I didn't ask, it was a very bad thing. And whenever I made a mistake, like mistakes were kind of a big deal, even if they were relatively small. So it makes now in my adulthood, it makes it seem like that every decision that is made is a dire decision, even if I consciously know that it's not. And also, I want to give a caveat, and maybe I do this for my own peace of mind as I, continue to talk about this, but I don't expect any pity, and I, don't expect, anybody to think that my life has been like super hard or anything like that. I'm just talking about what I happen to go through with mental health. I know that the range of difficulty for being human is vast and wide, and some of us just handle what is thrown at us better than others, and that doesn't make a person weaker than others or anything like that. It's like comparing apples to oranges, or even more a more difficult comparison is it's like comparing colors. We really shouldn't be making those comparisons, in my opinion. But I do, while I'm trying to unpack this, for myself in some ways, I'm trying to unpack it for others as well. So I just wanted to give that little bit of a caveat. But from what I got from the video and everything, and as I continue to do this and am reflecting as I do this, noticing the hangups that I have, the anxieties that I get, the criticisms that are in my mind, the judgments that I'm making about myself, and noticing how much of this is attached to so much of my experience growing up. There's a lot that I have to do and work on in order to validate myself from the inside. Because like there was things that I dealt with at home that were really hard for me, but then I was also the kid that got, bullied quite a bit. So that dominant other, paradigm, or that figure, that archetype, it pops up all over the place. In the video, that in the first take, one thing that I spoke about is that, so one, I don't always have an internal dialogue, which is weird to some people, but I think that there's a small subset of people that don't have an internal dialogue, which kind of lends itself to the idea that we don't all experience consciousness the same. So another example is not everybody has a visual component to their memory. So that makes like how they interact with memory very different than somebody who does have a visual component to memory also. But I bring this up because when I do have internal dialogue, it's very rarely directed towards me. It's very rarely me having an internal dialogue with myself directly. What it ends up being is there is a hypothetical form of a person that I am directing my dialogue to. And the reason that this is something to highlight is because almost every time that this is the case, it is in the spirit of justification of what I think, or what I want to say, or what I feel, or how I act, or what I want to do as an action. So there's like a hypothetical person in my mind that I have to justify my psychedelic use to. There's a hypothetical person in my mind that I have to justify my pros and skepticism to. There's a hypothetical person that I have to justify my depression to. And so it's interesting to notice this, because another thing that Dr. K said was that the dominant other doesn't always have to be a parent, but it can be a parent, a guardian, a teacher, a mentor. It could be an institution such as religion, or a club or group. And it can be the optics of society as a whole. And I feel that in some ways in my subconscious, I run through all of those, and it's exhausting. And it's something also that I've realized since a very early age. And I don't want to, for certain things, I don't want to need anybody else's validation to do it. I don't want to need my friends on the psychedelic forum I'm a part of to encourage me to do DMT for me to feel okay about doing DMT. It makes me feel so needy. I don't want to treat myself. I don't want to have somebody tell me, "Hey, Derek, you know what? Like, when was the last time you got a massage? It sounds like you could use a massage. Go get a massage." Because I guarantee that if somebody says that to me, it's already been in my mind. But it's hard for me to act on it and validate myself enough to be like, you know what? I'm going to go do that. And this isn't something that's all the time. It's just vastly most of the time for me. And so that's what I really need to work on, is that subconscious parameter that tells me that I need to be validated by other people to feel validated in and of myself. And this is another reason why I spend a lot of time alone, because I'm trying to figure this out. But Dr. K just put it into words that I haven't been able to yet. And I think that part of the reason I hadn't been able to put it into words is because I don't always have an internal dialogue. And so it's something that ends up becoming felt deep inside of me. So I acknowledge it, I realize it, I notice it, I try to act contrary to it. But sometimes when things are put into words in an eloquent way, we're able to work with it a little bit better. So, yeah, I think I covered as much as I wanted to cover in this one. I was pretty satisfied with the first one, so, I'm a little bit bitter right now. But today I think I'm just going to kind of self-care and do whatever comes up. You know, with what I deal with, every little thing can be kind of hard, and I need to learn to find the satisfaction in doing, even the small things within myself, and because he says that, Dr. K says one thing that's missing is, a dysthymic can do everything right, and they're still not satisfied because the component that tells them to pat themselves on the back for what they do is just completely missing. So hopefully I can find that. But I hope that this treated somebody else well, in the sense that it helped them to either understand themselves or a friend or a family member. Or even if they just have, slight inklings of this kind of experience in themselves, because we can have inklings of certain mental health issues without having the mental health issue. It doesn't mean that it's not something that's still bothering us and causing us detriment in our lives. So I just hope that this helps somebody. And I thank you all for bearing witness and listening. It helps me. If this was positive for you, please give a like. If it's something that you would like to keep up with my channel, feel free to subscribe and hit that notification. But otherwise, be good to you, be good to others, stay safe, take care, and I'll see you next time.